Vrindayai Tulasi Devai Priyayai Keshavasya Vishnu Bhakti Pradidevi Satchavacha Namo Namaha. Vrindayai Tulasi Devai Priyayai Keshavasya Vishnu Bhakti Pradidevi Satchavacha Namo Namaha. Basis and all Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. You are just like desired trees, able to fulfill all desires of everyone. And you are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned soul. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. All right. Is that for the deities or what?
No, it's for you. It's made for you.
I think you should save it for the deities. Give it to the deities. Yeah, but it's too good for me. Give it to the deities. I mean, it's really nice. What? Yeah, it's very fragrant inside. I mean, it took a long time to make, so they should give it to the deities. Jai Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasudanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasudanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tera Banachare Yamuna Tera Banachare Jai Hurat Humadhava Kunya Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Gopi Jana Pralabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balaba Girivardhari Yasodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Sodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tera Vanachade Yamuna Tera Vanachade Jai Hurad Umadava Kunda Vihati Jai Hurad Umadava Kunda Vihati Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravaticharya also Tada Satashi Shimad. His Divine Grace Sabaya Chadananda Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopi Gopinath Sayam Kunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavanam Ki Jai. Maturadam Ki Jai. Jagannath Swami Ki Jai. Yamunamai Ki Jai. Shrimati Lasi Devi Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Gaur. All glories the assembled devotees, all glories the assembled devotees, all glories the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnupadaya, Krishna Prastaya Bhutale, Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namani Namaste, Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani, Nivashesha Shunyavadi, Paschatya Deja Tarani. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 37th chapter, text 26. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Ekada te pashun palash charayanta adri sanushu chakrur nilayana kridash chora palapadeshataha. Ekadate pashun palash charyanto dri sanushu chakrur nilayana kridash chora palapadeshataha. Ekadate pashun palash charayanto dri sanushu Chakrurnilayana kridas Chorapala padeshataha Ekadate pashun palas Charayanto drisanushu Chakrurnilayana kridas Chorapala padeshataha. Okay. Chorapala padeshataha. No one else? Ekada, one day. Te, they. Pashun, the animals. Palaha, the coward boys. Charayantaha, grazing. Adri, of a mountain. Sanushu, on the sides. Chakrahu, they enacted. Nilayana, of stealing and hiding. Kridaha, games. Chora, of thieves. Pala, and protectors. Abadeshataha, playing the roles. So translation, one day the coward boys, while grazing their animals on the mountain slopes, played the game of stealing and hiding, acting out the roles of rival thieves and herders. You can repeat. One day the coward boys, while grazing their animals on the mountain slopes, played the game of stealing and hiding, acting out the roles of rival thieves and herders. So there's no purport by the servants of His Divine Grace the Prabhupada, so we'll read the commentaries by the Acharyas. The boys acted out hiding stolen objects as thieves and protectors of herds of sheep. So Jiva Goswami says, Sridhar Swami explains that Narada did not see the killing of Vyomasura. After killing Keshi in the morning and hearing Narada, Krishna continued herding the cows and then killed Vyomasura. Or the event happened earlier and is related here because it is mentioned along with other demons who took various forms. Others say that this happened before the killing of Shankachuda. Or the killing of Vyomasura should not have happened the same day as the killing of Keshi, since this verse starts with the words, one day, indicating a different time. Therefore, this pastime should have occurred at the end of Krishna's Komara period. This is suitable since the gopis previously said, Visha jalapya yad vyala raksha sad varsha marutad vaidutad nalat vrisha maya majad vishvato bayad rishabate vayam rakshita muhu. O greatest of personalities, you have repeatedly saved us from all kinds of danger, from poisoned water, from the terrible man-eater Aga, from the wind mixed with rains and the fiery thunderbolt of Indra, from Vatsasura, and from Vyomasura, Srimad Bhagavatam 10:31-3. Rishatnata Ja means Vatsasura, and Mayatmaja means Vyomasura, as explained previously. They played a game of stealing objects and hiding them. This is described. They played the roles of thieves and herders, the two parties who would take other boys who played the role of sheep. That is explained in the next verse. And Sanatana Goswami says, Sridhar Swami explains that Narada did not see the killing of Vyomasura, or after killing Keshi in the morning, hearing Narada, Krishna continued herding the cows and then killed Vyomasura. The boys, pleased that Krishna had killed Keshi, or Krishna and all the boys played a game of stealing objects and hiding them. This is described. They played the roles of thieves and herders. The two parties would take other boys who played the role of sheep. The sheep are not mentioned since they were less active and thus not prominent in the game. And I'm just going to read the next text and then comment. Tatrasan katichich chora palascha katichin ripa meshayatascha tatraike vijafrurakuta payaha. In that game, O king, some acted as thieves, others as shepherds, and others as sheep. They played their game happily without fear of danger. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is very short commentaries. They played without fear. They were without fear because whoever was stolen, whoever stole, all the protectors as well were friends. Jiva Goswami says this describes the game. They stole the sheep at ease without any shouting, even though killing, they did this on a mountain plateau. And Sanatana Goswami says, the method of the game is described in that game or among the boys, Tatra. Some were thieves, some were shepherds, and some were sheep. The sheep were taken easily without shouting. They played on the plateau because they were without fear. A plateau is like a flat area in the mountain, and you can, if you make the wrong step, guess what? You fall off the mountain and you die. And they had no fear. By the influence of the Lord, or all fear had been extinguished after Krishna had killed Keshi and other demons in Vrindavana. This was also the cause of Vyoma entering among them. They could only become happy by playing without fear. Or there was no fear of time, since they did not worry about being separated from the Lord. O king, you should understand, since when there is a king, the population is without fear. So, Om Gana Timidandasha. Gananjala Shilakaya Chakshur Unmeditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So what I'd like to do is read some quotes from the Nectar of Devotion and from the Krishna book about different types of fear. This is really interesting. So the first type of quote I'd like to read is how Krishna saves the devotees from fear. And there's other topics too, like sometimes Krishna is fearful, and sometimes the devotees are fearful for Krishna, and sometimes devotees are fearful of Krishna. It's interesting, isn't it? So these are, I just went through the Nectar Devotion and Krishna books, so this is not, no quotes are from the Bhagavatam, but from their, particularly from the Nectar Devotions. So here's one from Nectar Devotion. Therefore, if we take shelter of Krishna seriously, there'll be no fear of being thrown back into the cycle of so many species of life. Swapam apyasha dharmasha trayate mahato bayat. When one makes a little endeavor in this regard, then it saves one from the most dangerous type of fear. And Prabhupada describes the most dangerous type of fear is losing the opportunity for what? To be a human being. A sincere devotee will surely be transferred to the abode of Krishna as affirmed in Bhagavad Gita. And here's another quote. This is also the same topic of Krishna saves the devotees from fear. By your appearance as Lord Nrsingadev, you have saved us from terrible fears. Actually, our shares in the sacrificial performances are due to you only because you are the supreme enjoyer of all sacrifices. You are the super soul of every living entity, and therefore you are the actual owner of everything. Long were our hearts always filled with fear of this demon, Hiranyakashipu. These are the demigods, of course. But you were so kind toward us that by killing him, you've removed all fear within our hearts and have given us the chance to place your lordships within our hearts again. In other words, sometimes when people are so fearful, that fear or the fear of a particular entity who is threatening them takes the place of Krishna, not literally in their hearts, but in terms of their thoughts and meditation, takes the place of Krishna. And here's another way to get free of fear. One should give all reception to the nectarian river flowing from the moon-like faces of such great personalities, the sadhus. If someone eagerly continues to hear such transcendental sounds, then certainly he will become freed from all material hunger, thirst, fear, and lamentation, as well as all illusions of material existence. That's nice. So that's by hearing from great personalities, one can become free from fear. And here's another way to become free from fear. Simply by offering obeisances to and pouring water on the tulsi tree, one can become freed from the fear of being sent to the court of Yamaraj, the king of death, who punishes the sinful. And of course, we have our circumambulation of Tulsi Devi, Yani Kani Cha Papani, Brahmahat Jadi Kani Cha, Tani Tani Pranasyanti Pradaksina Pade. By circumambulating Tulsi, you become freed even from the offense of Brahmahatya Adhikanicha, even of killing Brahman. Not that you should do this and then just keep circumambulating Tulsi. It doesn't work like that. Another quote. Krishna is the protector of all surrendered souls. Some enemy of Krishna was enlivened with the thought that he needn't fear Krishna, because if he simply surrendered unto him, Krishna would give him all protection. That's interesting. So you have someone who was fighting with Krishna, and then he's thinking, well, if this doesn't work out, I'll just surrender to Krishna, and there won't be any problem. That's amazing, isn't it? And here's another instance from the Nectar of Devotion. When Uttara was attacked by the Brahmastra of Ashwatthama, she became afraid of losing her child, Maharaj Parikshit, who was still within the womb. Of course, he wasn't called Maharaj Parikshit at that particular point. That was later on. She immediately surrendered to Krishna and said, "My dear Lord, kindly save my child. I do not mind if I myself must be killed by the Brahmastra of Ashwatthama." This is an instance of humility caused by fear. It's interesting. Another quote. When Vrishasura appeared in Vrindavan as a bull, all the gopis became greatly affected with fear. So they're afraid of the bull. Being perturbed in that way, they began to embrace the tamal trees. And tamal trees, of course, remind one of Krishna. They have the same color as Krishna. This is an instance of fear caused by a ferocious animal and of the search for shelter while remembering Krishna in ecstatic love. Nice. Once, while Krishna was in the pasturing ground with his cowherd boys, his friends requested him to go to the Talavana forest where Gardabhasura, a disturbing demon in the shape of an ass, resided. The friends of Krishna wanted to eat the fruit from the forest trees, but they could not go because of fear of the demon. Thus they requested Krishna to go there and kill Gardabhasura. So, okay, and then some quotes from Krishna book. Vasudeva then began to offer his prayers. My dear Lord, I can understand who you are. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the super soul of all living entities, and the absolute truth. You've appeared in your own eternal form, which is directly perceived by us. I understand that because I am afraid of Kamsa, you have appeared just to deliver me from that fear. You do not belong to this material world. You are the same person who brings about the cosmic manifestation simply by glancing over material nature. So that's Vasudeva becoming free from fear. Another quote from Krishna book. While Nanda Maharaj was returning home, he considered Vasudeva's warning that there might be some disturbance in Gokula. Certainly the advice was friendly and not false. So Nanda thought, there is some truth in it. Therefore, out of fear, he took shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is quite natural for a devotee in danger to think of Krishna because he has no other shelter. When a child is in danger, he takes shelter of his mother or father. Similarly, a devotee is always under the shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but when he specifically sees some danger, he remembers the Lord very rapidly. And Krishna book again. The flames increased as the wind blew very quickly, and it appeared that everything moving and non-moving would be devoured. All the cows and the boys became very frightened, and they looked toward Balaram and Krishna the way a dying man looks at the picture of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They said, dear Krishna, you and Balaram are very powerful. We are now burning from the heat of this blazing fire. Let us take shelter of your lotus feet. We know you can protect us from this great danger. Our dear friend Krishna, we are your intimate friends. It is not right that we should suffer in this way. We are completely dependent on you, and you are the knower of all religious life. We do not know anyone except you. So that's the forest fire. And another story from Krishna book. Arishdashura entered Vrindavan with such a fearful appearance that just on seeing this great demon, all the men and women were afflicted with great fear, and the cows and other animals fled the village. The situation became very terrible, and all the inhabitants of Vrindavan began to cry, Krishna, Krishna, please save us. Krishna saw that the cows were running away, and he immediately replied. Okay, so that's how Krishna saves the devotees from fear. The next topic is fear of Krishna. My dear king, nectar devotion again. There are many devotees who first become attracted to the personality of Godhead for purposes of sense gratification, from being envious of him or out of fear of him. Of course, there's certain types of religion like that, that if you don't surrender, then what? God is going to send you to hell eternally. So these are different impetuses. Similarly, King Kamsa was attracted to Krishna because of fear. Kamsa was always fearful of Krishna because it had been foretold that his sister's son, Krishna, would kill him. Another quote from Nectar Devotion. This class is just going to be quotes. In ecstatic love for Krishna and dread, there are two causes of fear, either Krishna himself or some dreadful situation for Krishna. When a devotee feels himself to be an offender at Krishna's lotus feet, Krishna himself becomes the object of dreadful, ecstatic love. And when out of ecstatic love, friends and well-wishers of Krishna apprehend some danger for him, that situation becomes the object of their dread. So that's mixing the two right here. Here's another instance where Krishna becomes a source of fear for devotees. When Riksharaj, that's Jambavan, was in front of Krishna fighting and suddenly realized that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna addressed him thus, my dear Riksharaj, Why is your face so dry? Please do not feel ashamed or threatened by me. There's no need for your heart to tremble like this. Please calm yourself down. I have no anger toward you. You may, however, become as angry as you like with me, to expand your service in fighting with me, and to increase my sporting attitude. In this dreadful situation and ecstatic love for Krishna, Krishna himself is the object of dread. There's another instance, this is nectar devotion again, of a dreadful situation with Krishna as the object as follows. After being sufficiently chastised by child Krishna in the Yamuna River, the Kaliya snake began to address the Lord. O killer of the Mura demon, I have acquired many mystic powers by my austerity and penances, but before you I am nothing, I am most insignificant. Therefore, please be kind upon a poor soul like me, and don't be angry with me. I did not know your actual position, and out of ignorance, I have committed such horrible offenses. Please save me. I am most unfortunate, a foolish creature. Please be merciful to me. This is another instance of the ecstasy of dread in devotional service. You know, he's fearful of Krishna. And here's another story about Shankachuta. Thinking the brothers too powerful, Shankachuta left the company of the gopis and ran in fear of his life. So he's fearful of Krishna. And then there's Krishna's fearless nature, how Krishna himself is fearless. Dear wives of the Brahmanas, and then we're going to hear about how Krishna sometimes experiences fear. Dear wives of the Brahmanas, you must know that not even a slight smell of distress can touch Krishna. He knows no loss. He knows no defamation. He has no fear. And then the next one is fearfulness for Krishna's safety. Upon hearing the jackals crying in the forest of Vrindavana, Mother Yashoda sometimes became very careful about keeping Krishna under her vigilance, fearing that Krishna might be attacked by them. So she's very concerned about Krishna's safety. Another quote from the Nectar Devotion. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 16th chapter, verse 10, there's the following description. When Krishna was chastising the Kaliya Nag in the Yamuna, the big snake wrapped his coils all over Krishna's body, and upon seeing Krishna in this situation, all of his dear coward friends became greatly disturbed. Out of bereavement, distress, and fear, they became bewildered and began to fall on the ground, because the coward boys were under the illusion that Krishna could be in some mishap. Their symptoms are not at all astonishing. They had dedicated their friendship, their possessions, their desires, and their very selves to Krishna. When Krishna entered the Yamuna River, which had become very poisonous from the presence of Kaliya, Mother Yashoda feared all kinds of mishaps, and she was breathing hotly. Tears from her eyes were soaking her clothes, and she was almost collapsing. So they're very fearful for Krishna's safety. It's interesting, all these different types of fear. And the reason I'm talking about this or reading these quotes is because in these last two verses that we read today, we hear about the coward boys being fearless. After they had seen Krishna killing all these demons and protecting them from the forest fire and doing all these things, they were completely fearless and even playing on the mountain plateau, not worried about falling off. When the Keshi demon was causing disturbances in Vrindavan by assuming a large horse's body that was so big that he could jump over the trees, Mother Yashoda told her husband Nanda Maharaj, our child is very restless, so we had better keep him locked up within the house. I have been very worried about the recent disturbances of the Keshi demon, who has been assuming the form of a giant horse. When it was learned that the demon was entering Gokula in an angry mood, Mother Yashoda became so anxious to protect her child that her face dried up and there were tears in her eyes. These are some of the signs of the ecstasy of dread in devotional service caused by seeing and hearing something that is dangerous to Krishna. So, there's another one from Krishna book. Seeing the incredible way in which Krishna was enveloped in the coils of the serpent, the affectionate cowherd boys and other inhabitants of Vrindavan immediately became stunned out of fear. They had dedicated everything to Krishna, their lives, property, affection, activities, everything for Krishna. When they saw him in that condition, they became overwhelmed with fear and fell on the ground. All the cows, bulls, and small calves became overwhelmed with grief, and they began to look at him with great anxiety. Out of fear, they could only cry in agony and stand erect on the bank, unable to help their beloved Krishna. Okay. It's fear for Krishna's safety. And the next one is fear of separation from Krishna. So devotees actually, the point is devotees actually experience fear as part of their devotional service, even though we're taught that fear is one of the what? Anarthas. Kama, Krodha, Madhavatsarya, Bharya, Bhaya. Then fear, all these different anarthas in their original form, when they're not anarthas or unwanted things, can be there in the spiritual world. There could be anger in the spiritual world. There can be kama, lust, which is actually love between Krishna and the gopis. Kama, Krodha, Madhavatsarya, illusion, envy, isn't it? We have envy between the different parties of gopis, and certainly fear, which we're reading about today. So you see that the spiritual world is not some place where just everybody's just smiling, and they're smiling, they're happy. This is all Satchidananda, but it's not like kumbaya type of stuff, where everybody is just sitting there in Brahman, absorbed with a stupid smile on their face. They're actually fear of separation. A gopi once said to Krishna, "My dear son of Nanda Maharaj, by the sound of your flute, Srimati Radharani has become full of lamentation and fear. And thus, with a faltering voice, she is crying like a kurari bird." So why do you think she's fearful? Anybody have any ideas? She'll be detected, yeah. And lamenting that she can't join Krishna at that particular point. On another occasion, when Srimati Radharani thought that Krishna was involved with another woman, she addressed her friend in this manner. "My dear friend, as soon as I think of Krishna, the coward boy, attached to some other woman, I become stricken with fear, and the hairs of my body stand up. I must be very careful that Krishna not see me at such times." This is instance of concealment caused by shyness and diplomatic behavior. Wow. Because, she was afraid that, just like sometimes a lady's afraid that a man, another woman is going to take away her boyfriend or husband or something like that. She's just very much afraid of that. Fear can actually be, in this particular instance, a cause of envy. One old devotee said, "My dear Lord," it's interesting how many quotes about fear there are. "My dear Lord, when we are away from you, we become so anxious to see you again. And there's great misery in our lives. But then when we do see you, there immediately comes the fear of separation. Under the circumstances, both when we see you and when we do not see you, we are subjected to different kinds of tribulation." Can you imagine that? You're with Krishna, and you're afraid, when is he going to leave again? There's always these intense emotions in the spiritual world. So here's a quote from Krishna book. Wow. "We fear he will become controlled by them, and he will forget us, and because The gopis here are talking about the ladies in in Mathura, sorry. We fear that he will become controlled by them and he will forget us, for we are simple village girls. He will no longer be kind to us. We therefore do not expect Krishna to return to Vrindavan. He will not leave the company of the girls in Mathura. Okay, so that's fear of separation. And then here's one thing of actually Krishna being fearful. She saw Krishna looking this way and that way in fear of her because he was conscious of his naughty behavior. Whoops, wait a second, I skipped. After seeing her son so engaged, she very silently approached him from behind, because that's Mother Yashoda chasing after Krishna. Krishna, however, saw her coming toward him with a stick in her hand, and he immediately got down from the grinding mortar and began to flee in fear. So Krishna is feared by fear personified, and here Krishna is fearful of Yashoda Mai. So even Krishna experiences fear. And I think this is the final one. Devotees being fearless. Although the denizens of heaven drank nectar daily to prolong their lives, they were afraid of this Aghasura and were wondering, when will this demon be killed? The denizens used to drink nectar to become immortal. But actually, they were not confident of their immortality. On the other hand, the boys who were playing with Krishna had no fear of the demons. They were free of fear. Any material arrangement for protecting oneself from death is always unsure. But if one is in Krishna consciousness, then immortality is confidently assured. So, any questions? Yes? No, actually, if you surrender to Krishna, then you'll enjoy, if you have that desire, opulence even in this world. What to speak of spiritual opulence. And you see that. Like Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada's example is always surrendered to Krishna. But he followed the order of his spiritual master. And Prabhupada gave the example that he had some children before he took sannyas. And of course, those children didn't really listen to him. And then, after taking sannyas and fulfilling the order of his spiritual master, he had thousands of children, disciples who were ready to do anything for him. And Prabhupada had so many palaces. Prabhupada said, I have so many palaces that I can live in. Of course, Prabhupada also said that he was cursed by the parents of his disciples to not live in one place, so he had to go from one palace to another. But you see that Krishna rewarded Prabhupada with so much even material opulence, and Krishna will do that with the devotees. If the devotee needs it for his service, Krishna won't give a devotee something that's counterproductive for his service and advancement in devotional service. We should have faith like that. So, any other questions? Yes?
So if a non-devotee hears how fear is bliss,
It's kind of frightening. You want to become a Brahmavadi instead of... Because it's a symptom of love. Just like a mother would not give up her concern and fear for the safety of her. You say, you take your child away, you don't have to take care of the child anymore. Is that all right? Do you want to do that? And they say, no. She's enjoying. She's enjoying. In loving relationships, you're actually enjoying protecting someone. So in the same way, in loving relationship with Krishna, there's enjoyment. Jai Shri Shri Radhikalukananda Ki Jai. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Buddhale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Nivasesas Nobody Pushed. Goswami, Govindam, Purusham, Tamaham Bhajami, Govindam. Namo Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Padaya. Krishna Pristaya Mudale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Samini Dinamine Namaste, Karanti Deve, Purvani Pacha, Neve Sesha, Shunyavagade, Sacharte, Sacharane. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gauranga Vrindana Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasati Gauranga Vrindana. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasati Gauranga Vrindana. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Rana Gurlokin Nana Rana Gurlokin Nana Rana Jaya Radha Gurlokin Nana Rana Gurlokin Nana Rana Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravatikacharya also Teta Satashi Shimad His Divine Grace Abhaya Chatanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anandakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Friends